Today, we have a special guest joining us. Now, he went all in on Ecomi's token, Omi. He's also has a YouTube channel where he talks about VeVe Ecomi and has great guests on all the time. Today, he is joining us directly. He's one of my favorite people to talk to in the world about VeVe and Ecomi. So we're in for a treat having the real Randy Chavez joining us. Welcome to the Crypto Rain channel. I'm your host, Jay Rain. And if you like money and crypto and you're looking for a real investor take on the crypto market, join the Rainmaker family. Do note, I'm not a financial advisor, neither is Randy Chavez. We're crypto investors ourselves. Now, a special shout out to our Patreon members. We do have a private Discord that our Patreon members get access to. Make it rain on that like button, strap in for the show. Let's welcome Randy. Thank you so much for joining the Crypto Rain channel.
Of course. Thank you so much for having me. Thank you so much for being so gracious at NFT NYC. Let me crash with you for a couple nights. Let me just, you guys have been amazing. You guys have been awesome.
Yeah, that was a blast. We really enjoyed having you join us, right? And that hotel that I stayed at with Doctor and stuff, that was amazing. That place where breakfast was at, weren't those views incredible?
Yeah, that was a lot of fun. Like even just doing videos there with the backdrops like that, that's something I hadn't really done before. Yeah, so that was really good.
It overlooked right over Times Square. It was incredible. It was the Marriott something or other, I think.
Was it the Marquis? Marriott Marquis?
I don't know. Yeah, Dr. Stuff would know. He booked the hotel. I just paid for my part of it. Yeah. It was awesome. Well, cool. I had some questions for you. And starting off with this past year, like within the last year, you went all in on Ecomi's token, Omi. I want to ask you about that, what your thought process was, because you have, I think, like 80 or 90% of your crypto holdings. You went all in on Omi.
Yeah, if we're talking about just crypto, we're not talking about NFTs. It's like 99%. Okay. Up until Earth 2 releases their crypto, like end of this year, it's actually 100%. I have no other crypto outside of Omi. If it's my net worth entirely, then I would say 90%.
Yeah, because you have a bunch of collectibles as well, but you went mostly in on the Omi token.
Yeah, I had Secret Rare Spider-Man. I had a bunch of stuff, and as you know, time had gone on, and I got to thinking like, okay, let's say Secret Rare Spider-Man does another 10x from here, and you know, it's worth $500,000 or even $1 million. Like, okay, that's good, but I feel like the Omi token is so undervalued that it'll just dwarf that. And I was like, okay, I'm going to sell what I can. And I only have 2 grails left. I have the Partner Statue and Fantastic Four #1 Secret Rare, and everything else pretty much gone into Omi, except my alligator Lokis. Those are staying with me for, you know, I will never sell those. I might trade them at some point, but I won't sell.
So now all in on the Omi token, that's just because what I'm getting at is you must feel it's undervalued, especially if you were selling some collectibles that you're thinking, the Secret Rare Spider-Man might 10x from here, but I'm going to sell that and cash it out and buy some Omi token. Was that your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, in general, you know, it's not like I had a little bit of money and I just diversified. I had a bunch of Pokemon cards, I had a bunch of Tesla stock, and some other cryptos as well, and a bunch of stocks. And I was just like, you know, I did a bunch of calculations saying, okay, how much X can this go up by the end of the decade? Let's say short term and long term. I was like, you know, if I really wanted to get cute and try to play the game, well, I think this will go up first, and this, like, I don't know how good I would be at that. I mean, I've done that in Pokemon, but that's something I know really intimately. And to know other companies really intimately, like Square and Illumina and Lemonade and Tesla, it just gets to become a whole lot. So I was like, okay, if I know that they're all going to go up eventually, what's going to be the best ROI? And, you know, the deep dive into Omi, I was like, oh my God, this is, you know, it might take a while, and I was definitely early, but yeah, I put everything into there. What it goes up to the max, I don't know, but Omi can be fractionalized, and I think there's a decent chance, or I think at $1 at some point before the end of the decade. Yeah.
Yeah, 8 years from now. It's plenty of time, and I think we'll hit market caps with some of the crypto projects that are just unfathomable now. So people say, oh, that much money will never come into it. And that's clearly because they don't understand market caps. A market cap doesn't mean every token would sell at that price. What it is the total circulating supply times the current price. And so all that has to happen for the price to rise is that everyone who's has it says, I'm not selling at that price. And then the price, not even very much has to change hands. The price then skyrockets. And all of a sudden the market cap is at numbers that nobody could have imagined. The same thing happened with Tesla stock, right? It hit market caps that were impossible. You know, with stocks, people look at the price earnings ratio and these other things and, oh, Tesla profit is this. But a lot of people thought, yes, it is this. And a Tesla profit isn't that high. But the things he's doing, we think are on the cutting edge of technology. And I believe in his vision. And so the price it took for people to part with their Tesla shares was so high versus the price to earnings ratio that the market cap went crazy. Yeah. And I think we're going to see a lot more of that in crypto, especially since crypto's been down for a while now. Basically, you could say the massive bull run from this cycle. A lot of people are saying that was March of last year. I still think there's a bigger leg upcoming. And let's say they're right, and I'm wrong on that. I like to think in percentage chances. So I'd say there's a 60% chance that we just haven't had the massive leg of this bull run yet, and a 40% chance that we already did and it was March, but then this crypto winter won't be all that short. So the difference between those two conclusions is, one, we have a bull run that kicks off in a matter of months. One, we have a bull run that kicks off in a matter of 6 to 12 months. Either of those is really good for people who are in crypto right now and making good pickups. What's up, Chris? Thanks for joining us. Chris says, Randy, what's up? We love Chris Ashby. He's been a longtime member of the community.
Oh, very cool. Shout out to the Patreon members and the community members. So, something you mentioned about the Tesla stock, part of the reason, or at least part of that, and we make the argument this is towards the end of their giant leg up, was after one of the splits that they had done, after the price had already gone up like 5x or 8x or whatever, you know, Tesla still wasn't profitable on paper for 4 quarters in a row. So, you know, and there was a lot of FUD with that. People say, oh, it's not profitable. Like, well, it's because they were spending a lot of their money on building new gigafactories and making new vehicles. And if they would have not done that, they would have been profitable right away. But it's so strange that they call it smart money. And like big institutions that don't come in until they have 4 quarters worth of profit. And then as soon as they were accepting the S&P 500, went from like 500, 700, like literally that day. And I see a lot of that happening. That's going to happen with Ecomi. I've been talking to a lot of whales after NFT NYC, went to this thing called Uncharted in the Hamptons in Long Island. And so many people were so curious about what VeVe was doing. And they didn't know that they had a token yet because we haven't done any marketing. So they didn't know they had a token. There were some people that day that downloaded that VeVe app when they saw, like, wait, you have the first Spider-Man and Superman on the blockchain. They went absolutely nuts. And there's people, like, I'm having one person on tomorrow, Janine Yorio, she's got the most amount of land in Sandbox. She's CEO of Every Realm. And she had just raised earlier this year about $60 million with Andreessen Horowitz, who most people might not know, but the people that they will know is Nas and Lil Baby, who have also signed on to that deal. And if you look at the CPIs or the APIs of those companies like Decentraland and Sandbox, where it's like 1,000 users a day, and then you look at the amounts of users that VeVe has and Earth2 has, it's people just don't know. So as soon as these people that are putting tens of millions of dollars into other virtual real estate and virtual assets, once they find out what we are, it's game over. There's going to be hundreds of millions of dollars going into the Ecomi ecosystem, whether it be on the token or the NFTs. And then you'll see that again with land.
Both, right? So the major price growth happens when you get new users who simply become aware of what's already been done, right? They literally aren't aware that the first Batman is already on the blockchain. In fact, it's in an app, and you can get it and you can put it in augmented reality and do all these cool things. And when they become aware, they're like, no way, how did I not know about this? And then it becomes a no-brainer. It depends on which income category they're in as to whether they can go on and buy a Todd McFarlane. Oh, you know what? Drop some money and buy a Spider-Man secret rare, of which there's only like 1,000 of them. which, you know, makes that a grail. The Disney partner statue. There are Disney fanatics that think Disney all the time. They spend so much money. They go religiously, right? I met some just a couple months ago. He's a business owner. He's moving his whole business to Florida because they're able to get some really big factories for cheap because NASA's pulled out of there. And so he runs a biotech firm, and they spend, gosh, tens of thousands taking the family to like Disneyland and Disney World every year religiously. And I was telling him that Disney has these collectibles, and he was like, what? Why isn't Disney talking about this? I'm like, well, just wait. When they do, it'll be big. And so he was like, his mind was blown, right? And so for him, like 10,000 is not a lot of money. 100,000 starts to be a lot, you know, like, okay, let me really think about this purchase. Some people come in the space and they're like, oh, I don't know about a $50 collectible. That's expensive. And it just has to do with what realm you deal in. When they realize what's coming, which is why actually the mid to the end of this week, because I've been thinking about, okay, the crypto market is down. What are the best deals out there? And so you're always hedging this risk to reward ratio. What's the risk of it failing? What's the risk of it not happening? What's the potential reward from here? How many X's can it go? Can it go 10X? Can it go 50X? Can it go 100X? And you never know exactly that number. You just have to make a guess. As I was looking at risk to reward ratios, it just, for me, in my own personal investment, only seemed to make more sense than anything else out there to go the biggest in. So, which is why I've been putting most of the money that I can, accumulating more OMI, because the risk to reward. I mean, what's the risk that they go out of business in the next 4 years? There would have to be some shocking new development that, who knows? And even that, would that take that out the company? But there's nothing like, they're already like revenue positive. They already have some of the top IP in the world. Those relationships are going great. Disney's using them even more to promote new things that drop right before their movies, and they're loving that, you know, Disney, like Marvel and other things. And it's really, Jurassic Park did the same thing. That relationship is going amazingly well, and they're going more towards that direction, not less. So I can't think of the in my mind, the possibility of them failing in the next 4 years is like less than 1%.
Impossible.
What is the possible chance that it goes up from here, like 10X, 50X, 100X? I will be shocked if it doesn't do way more than 10X. So it's got the potential. It could go, because if it just goes to like
10X by next year,
15 cents, then it's 100X from here. If it goes to 1.5 cents, that's a 10X from here. So the risk to reward ratio for me was really exciting. So I wanted to focus, actually, I asked you on first to come on and talk about what your thoughts were, because I know you're 100% committed to this, and you're 100% committed to OMI, and it's you reflected in your portfolio, right? And also through your YouTube channel, which you do a great job. And I appreciate also that you have all kinds of great guests on your channel. It's a lot of fun.
Yeah, it's super exciting. And there's I mean, there's a lot of speculation that goes into the future, but then there's some things that's like, okay, you can kind of read the writing on the wall, and it's not so much speculation, like the onboarding of new users that, again, they haven't done marketing. You know, I just had Brock McBlockchain on the podcast, and he would say, oh, hey, it's easy for my 70-year-old mom to go and buy this stuff on the VeVe app, but it's too complicated for her to get a fiche, and that's his project, that's his baby. And it's like, I know, I've tried, I've made it so easy, and she just can't do it. And that's something and he's very, very good at what he does. And so you have the older users that can be onboarded very easily, and then you have the younger ones, which a lot of people discount them. But I looked at, and because a lot of people are on the app now are like, you know, late 20s, early 30s, you know, some a little bit higher, some a little bit lower. But my YouTube analytics range from like 24 to 44. Like that's where the bulk of the audience is.
Mm-hmm.
But if you take a look at some parents, and it's like, oh, I got to buy this for the kid. The kid's been asking me this. They ask so many times, parents will just give in. And I looked at yesterday the Spidey and His Amazing Friends, or a few days ago. It's basically Marvel Mighties. You have Spider-Man, you have the Ghost Spidey, and one of the other ones. I think it's we don't have him as a Mighty, but it's the brown one. I forget, Miles Morales. And I went and I looked on YouTube, and I was like, you know, I see this on Disney Plus, how many views does it get on YouTube? Because that's how I gauge popularity. And there's tens of millions of views. It's not just like they have hundreds of thousands. There's tens of millions of views on it. And I was like, oh, and this is a recent show too. And everyone's going to, especially the girl, like, I don't know, like Red Ranger was really cool, but the Pink Power Ranger, everyone had a crush on. For kids that are with these, they'll think Spider-Man and Miles Morales are cool, but everyone's going to have a crush on Gwen Stacy. They're going to have a crush on the Ghost Spidey. So I was like, okay, this is, so I went and bought a bunch more. And I did the same for, it's just called like Mickey Mouse on the, it took me a little while to find, it's on Disney Plus. They were made like five years ago to like 2020, give or take. And they're lenticular cards. The lenticular cards is the artwork of the new of the new show. And I went and looked on YouTube for that, and that happened to have also tens of millions. And one of the videos even had 150 million views. I was like, oh my God, there are so few of these lenticular cards, especially the secret rare, like the Goofy, like this is, and that's the only secret rare that I think Disney has. Kids are going to want them. Like that's, you know, it doesn't have to be nostalgic just yet. It's just kids are going to want it because they do.
Well, and even if like you just hold them for a while, because a lot of the people who are paying crazy amounts for Pokemon cards, well, 15 years ago, they were kids that played with them and they didn't have money then. But now they do. They're doctors, they're lawyers, they're business owners. Some of them make $100 million, you know, or even $1 million or 10 million a year. And they're like, oh yeah, oh man, a Charizard hologram. Yeah. Okay. I'll make that happen. Right. And so that's why, like, so some of these things, even if they don't go up now, as long as Ecomi continues to be relevant and they continue to grow their user base and expand their user base to become the number one, and they already are like the number one digital collectible app out there, really. As long as they keep that and they keep growing and keep running with it, they'll be the place that people turn for these things, right? That those will be the items that everyone wants. So I did have a question for you, because you have a lot of interaction with the team, Ecomi, and some good insights, and you get some behind the scenes stuff. When you see what they're doing and what's happening, even the stuff you can't share, does it tell you that they're making the right decisions that will take Ecomi to much higher growth levels, or perhaps continue as they grow to be the largest digital collectibles provider in the world?
This is a really good question. It's really hard. So I was worried at a time where things were being discussed. I was like, I wonder, like, should you be this public with it? Like, you're telling these people what you're going to do, and there's really nothing that's stopping them from doing that themselves. And then it turned out fine. You know, there's like, oh, okay, they're, you know, no other company's gonna do that. They're gonna let us do that. And when you think about it, it makes sense, because they have the, if I were, let's say, Nintendo or Disney or like any big company, Apple, Amazon, whatever you want, and I think like, okay, I want to get into the metaverse, I want to get into NFTs, but there's a learning curve and there's a cost curve, and I would let Ecomi and VeVe do their thing to see what works, what doesn't work, and like, okay, so getting MTL, getting all these things done first are probably going to be, you know, whoever decides to come in, their main priority, so they're not bogged down by that, you know, so being able to scale really quickly. So I was worried a little bit of time for that, but then, you know, I got a pretty good payday a few weeks ago, and I put it all into Omi. I got an extra 12 million Omi, so I have 144 million now. If I if I get any more money, it's mostly all going to go into Omi, because I'm that confident at what's coming, and I'm that confident on the. So I was talking with let's say like Neopets, their project leader, yesterday, and they were saying that, yeah, we have some NFTs of these Neopets, and we're going to make them customizable. And you can get a Neopet hat, Neopet armor, like all to go on your separate NFTs. And I was like, oh, you know, you could, you know, you don't have that Neopets token yet, but you could totally go and you can just say like, hey, you can get you can sell these for X amount of dollars, or you can give your token really good utility, and you can go and say you could buy this same accessory at like a 10 or 20% discount, and that incentivizes people to use the token. I was like, and all they have is Neopets. That's their only thing that they have, but we have everything. So if we can get customizable things, and they can say like, hey, you could use a token for this, like, holy crap. And that's just, you know, like they've also had some things that they would say in the VeVe verse, like you could have like VeVe toilet paper or a VeVe table or a VeVe whatever. And all of that's 100% burnable. Like they just have to make one high mint item thing. Like I would love to take, you know, 100 rolls of toilet paper and just go and TP somebody else's house. and that's 100% burnable. So I think that there's a lot that they could do, but a lot that other companies can do also. Like there's a mall next to me, and they have a store inside the mall that has a selfie center where they have a bunch of different rooms inside this one store and a bunch of different backdrops, and it's really successful. So you can go to take selfies in those things. Wouldn't it be crazy, or not crazy, wouldn't it be awesome if we could be able to do that, like let's say at Spyscape, you know, with our bat counts? We already have partnerships with Universal and Disney and WB. So to be able to go to, let's say, like Harry Potter World, or be able to go to Disney and take selfies on different things with our NFTs doesn't seem outside of the realm of possibility. I think, and because Disney had a store in the mall that I was talking about with this, so they know what it is. Like you can't tell me that they're not going to do something like that.
Yeah, I'm excited to see their utility come forward, right? So a lot of times people say, oh, what's the OMI token utility? And really it's not in use yet, which is why everything's so cheap. And they say, well, come talk to me once it's in use. It's like, why would I come talk to you then? Do you like paying a lot for it, or do you like paying a little? Because I like to buy low and sell high. Part of the principle of making money when you sell high is not buying high in the first place and then trying to sell higher. It's buying when it's low. In other words, before the utility rolls out. And the first utility that they've really talked about is the more you can stake it on the app to increase your master collector points. Master collector points, we haven't seen that utility either, but you'll need them in order to get access to certain drops or to the front of the line on certain drops. And as that rolls out, because we're all accruing based on the number of collectibles you have right now, master collector points. I think there'll be a bunch of people using them willy-nilly on all kinds of things, and then they'll start to run out, and they'll be like, oh my gosh, how do I get more of these? And so then people will be like, well, I got to stake a lot more OMI. So then they'll start buying it, and then the utility really comes into play. Because say like they do a Boba Fett drop or something, and they're like, oh, to get the secret rare one, to get early in that line, you have to put up 10,000 master collector points or something. Boy, you'll see master collector points, the utility of those become so front of mind, and the utility of then being able to stake OMI in order to get more master collector points, and people will go crazy for the OMI token, and all of a sudden you'll have utility, and that will drive up price. And then everyone will have this feeling that I don't have enough, even more visceral than those that realize what's going on. Like we all have that feeling, like I don't have enough. I'm at like 44 million right now, and you're at 100 million more. But I'm like, I don't have enough. But I was at 13 million just like 3 months ago, right? So I like where I'm at now, although I would like, 100 million a lot better.
But so yeah, you with to build on that premise, when you have something like staking, let's say people right now that, let's say whatever the price is, they just buy $5,000 worth of OMI, which is, a decent amount. That's a couple mortgage payments. That's, like the price of a really nice vacation, but that's achievable for a lot of people that are just putting in a couple hundred or even $1,000 a month, week, whatever it is. And $5,000 right now isn't a ton, but next year when this price 20x's and we're still below 3 cents, and suddenly you have $100,000, well, you can stake 50% of that. You can have that highest staking tier of $50,000. And what a lot of other people do, like I know the guy, and the guy's really, really responsible, really, really has a lot of money, had the number 45 Spider-Man and the number 41 ultra rare Day of the Dead stamp. Wound up selling both for 100,000 gems because he wanted to stack. He wanted to save gems, and he couldn't. He just wound up just spending it. He just went all YOLO, and a lot of people, and this is where I've been trying to warn my subscribers or anyone that would listen, that it's very, very easy to spend money when you've never had it. It's like, oh, I have money. What are most people going to do? What can I spend it on? What vacation can I go to? What car can I get? What nice place can I go to so I can get that Instagram selfie for the likes? There's a bunch of people that are going to get a bunch of money and they're going to spend it. And if it's an OMI, and they could go and not only stake that, but then use that on raffles, like you were saying, like, hey, a bunch of MCP points for this secret rare Boba Fett. Yeah, and maybe we get 1/3 of it that goes to MCP points, but another third will go to OMI raffle points. And if you're going to buy that OMI, let's say you don't have any, you buy it for the raffle, and then you don't win that raffle. Well, I have this OMI, might as well spend it. So there's going to be a lot of utility. There's going to be a lot of people using it. Very, very bullish on it.
So if it rolls out, like I understand with that OMI that's used to get in the raffle gets burned, right? Or
if you get it, that collectible, then yes, that gets burned. If you bet the OMI, like you wager it, and then you don't get it, then that OMI comes back to you. But if you get so people would be betting large amounts.
Yeah,
and the good thing is, if you have something like a really small drop, that's really not too much. Let's say there's only 1,000, and then let's say 300 of which goes to the OUP raffle, where you have to wager a certain amount of OMI. Well, maybe there's only one Dr. Profit right now, but there's a couple Mr. Pags, there's a couple people like me. But in like the next year or two, when we have 100 Dr. Profits and some billionaires come in and some other people come in, they could wager whatever the fudge they want. And it doesn't matter that most people wouldn't wager millions of OMI for that. It only takes a couple hundred people to be like, nope, I want this because it's so, like give me a secret rare Charizard, give me a secret rare Mewtwo.
Sure.
You could be damn sure I'm wagering millions of OMI on that, because that type of thing is like invaluable. Like to someone like me, that just puts it on my arm, it puts it on my body. Yeah.
that puts it in perspective for how this could go, and I would say it's even likely to go. Like, it's not a for sure thing that, like, number one, getting Pokemon, I would say super highly likely. They have all the relationships to make that happen. I would say it's more a question of when, but also like more people coming in. I think they have the right foundation to attract those multi-millionaires, right? People who grew up in my generation, people who grew up in your generation, who are really successful now, and they have huge amounts of money. And all of us have a little bit of an inner nerd, right? When we were a kid, and those things that we liked, that for a Charizard, and say that there's only 500 of them or 1,000 of them, like the secret rare Charizard. Yeah. Okay. It's a question of, okay, not tens of thousands worth of OMI for them. It's a question of hundreds of thousands worth of OMI for them. Right. Yep. And so what OMI will be at that point, I don't know. $100,000 right now would buy you a lot of OMI, but yeah. And we're thankfully on this big pullback that I didn't know that would happen. There was this pivotal point at 0.75 to 0.8 cents with OMI that it looked like it was either going to break up or break back down. So I went in a little bit more, and you always kick yourself because you're like, man, at today's prices, I could buy like 4 times as much with that same amount of money. Yeah. But when it did come down so cheap, I think I went from like 13 million to I was like at 11. I went to 13 million. With it coming so cheap, below 0.25 cents and below, I've been stacking. So then I went all of a sudden, over the last little while to 43 or 44 million, I think now, just because it got so cheap, right? And this opportunity, like, too good to pass up. And the only thing that sucks is so much of my other crypto is down, and I'm just so averse to selling my things when they're down. I wish there were other things that were just up, but the whole market is like down. That's like, what would I sell to buy more OMI? And actually I think about that question every other day or so. What could I sell that's not down near as much that I could roll that into OMI at this value pricing that it's at?
I mean, you could also look at it another way. If you made a good amount of profit in some things, you could sell some things at a loss to offset it. And this way you could just look at it as like, hey, now I don't have to pay as much tax next year. and that's an easier pill to swallow than just I'm taking a loss. It's just a different way of looking at it. But yeah, I've wanted to sell the Partners Fantastic Four #1 for more OMI for a while now, but it's right now you have to lose the 8.5% on selling it, and then another 10% on cash out, and then whatever tax for next year. It's like, my God, man, is it really worth it? It probably is. It's still definitely worth it, but it's a hard pill to swallow. Going from something that's 8,000 and then suddenly getting $6,000 worth, which is still nice. It's still a good amount of OMI. But then, God forbid, now I have nothing to sell if like my car breaks down or I need to have an emergency, that type of deal.
Yeah, and that Disney partner statue is always liquid, no matter where the market is. It's like those always change hands if you just price just below the floor, and it'll move because it's a highly desirable item. Yeah. So I have another question for those that don't know your history, and shout out to the people who are here live. Just hey, hi, Alan, Chris again. Alan says, I discovered VeVe last year on 17th July. Thanks to you. Great, grateful for that. Just $700 total. I managed to have 2 partners. Nice. And other stuff. That is awesome, Alan. Roku says, I love this game and Pokemon.
I love this game. One of my catchphrases.
So tell us your VeVe story and how you first found the app and found Ecomi and became interested.
Sure. So the first time I downloaded VeVe actually in February of 2021, but I didn't really know what it was. Somebody was like, hey, download the VeVe app. And it was someone from Earth 2 that had found it. And I was like, okay. And I didn't really look too much into it. I didn't really understand the blockchain NFTs all that well. Like I had heard of NBA Top Shot. And that was it. And things were still in the store. I look back at that day as like, I should have gone in on all these collectibles. But what really got me into it was in late 2020, I got into Earth 2, which was it's still one of the biggest metaverses out there. They just sold their 100 millionth tile of property, which is nuts. Yeah, it's insane. Like they're partnered with Polygon and Matic. They're launching their crypto later this year. And I was looking for their crypto because they were teasing that it would be on GoChain, because there was a bad actor in both Earth 2 and Ecomi that used to work for GoChain, and thankfully he's gone from both parties now for a long time. And I was like, okay, so they're teasing it's going to be on GoChain. I'm going to need to look for a crypto that has a lot of supply out there, and it's really low market cap, and it's low, like this. And I find like, OMI. Okay, this is interesting. And then I saw this guy named Earth 2 Mastery that had done some videos on it. I was like, oh, okay, what if this is the crypto that, Earth 2 is going to use? And I look into it, and then I finally see like the CEO and the COO, and it's like, okay. And I was really impressed with them at first. David winning like the Young Entrepreneur Award like 2 years in a row, and Dan being both successful businesses, but Dan and David in collecting, Dan and other stuff. Dan had like a weed shop or a weed something, was something like that. And then I found the licensor Alfred Archon. I was like, and I knew the name sounded familiar because I'm really big into Pokemon. I was like, wait a minute. And then I was like, oh, no freaking way. So I call my friend Dan, my best friend Dan. He's a lot of the reason for my financial success. He was my mentor. I'm going to have him on the podcast at some point. And I told him, I was like, listen, sell everything you have and buy this OMI coin right now. Like and he's like, what do you mean? And it's like, listen, there's a finite amount, and it is, it's deflationary, and there's, and I didn't really understand all of the tokenomics yet. I didn't know how much was in the reserve, was in the vault, but I knew right then that this was something special. And I didn't really even get into all their licenses. And the farther I looked into it, I was like, yeah, this is stupid undervalued. Like my goal at the time was I had a bunch of Tesla stock, I had a bunch of Pokemon cards, I had some Bitcoin, and I had just like retired, and I was just like, okay, I'm just going to build up YouTube. I'm going to content on Earth 2, and that was going to be my life. And then this whole thing happened. And so
you went from something you were excited about to something you were even more excited about.
Yeah, I changed everything. Like the trajectory in which I was going completely, took a left turn. I was like, because this is better. And I feel like you could have like the best plan, and it could be really good, and that plan would still be good. You know, Tesla, Pokemon cards, Bitcoin. But when you find something that's just infinitely better, why not just go to the thing that's better? You know, so yeah, that was my story how I got in.
And for anyone who's not subscribed to The Real Randy Chavez yet, just search that on YouTube and you can just easily add it. After the video, I'll be able to drop in a link there. Like, so if you're watching this on recording, you can just easily go to it and just subscribe. Talks about the latest updates with the Ecomi team, frequently is discussing things with them, some of which he can share, and he does share, and also has some great guests on. So I had another question for you. And so say you were airdropped 30,000 gems, and we know what you would do right away. You would cash them out and then like turn that into Omi. But imagine you couldn't do that.
Mm-hmm.
What would you buy with that?
So there was an interesting question, I think, that Foster Hill put out, saying like, hey, if everything was just a mint 1,000, like if it was Todd had 1,000 mints, partners had 1,000 mints, same as Secret or Spidey, what would be better? And I was thinking, okay, well, like Batman, there's like a dozen other Batman on there. You know, if you don't like the Todd, which you should, you know, there's Riso, there's a whole bunch of others. And with the Spider-Man, there's, even if the secret rare, ultra rare, uncommon, and the rare were too expensive, you have 32,000 common out there. You're gonna find a cheaper option. But with the partner statue, there is no cheaper option. You either can get it or you can't. And like you said, there are Disney fanatics out there, which I don't know if you've taken a look at some of the collectors pages on Facebook, but there's hundreds of thousands in each of those, and no one's talking about Ecomi yet. So when those people get in, just the collectors that's on Facebook, you know, just some of the boomers, not even including some of the young guns, the people that want to impress their girlfriend because their girlfriend's, you know, Disney. And I don't know. 30,000 partners, Todd, Spider-Man, Riso, you know, have that on repeat for as many as I could buy. But something that I did recently the other day, which I'll get to in a second, but the Disney people alone is so much that's going to go into Walt. But then there's people that I've seen that could not care less about Pokemon come in and buy up a bunch of the Grails because they're just collectors. They would come in from baseball, they'd come in from Magic, and like, I just want the top of the top. They throw in like $500,000, they get the top of the top, and then they bounce. And those cards are never going to be seen again. 100% that's going to happen in VeVe. And it's not just one IP like Pokemon, which, you know, officially we don't have. They haven't made any announcements, but they have all these other IPs. So there's going to have collectors from every which way. I guarantee you Nick Cage is either already in this or he's going to be, because he was at an auction house that a buddy of mine was at buying comics the same day that he was buying Pokemon cards. But it's wild. What I noticed the other day, which I'm sure other people have noticed as well, is let's say you have a project, doesn't matter what it is, and let's say an NFT on that project was 10 ETH back when ETH was 3,000, you know, per ETH. And then as ETH goes down to, let's say, 1,500, you would expect that the amount of ETH you would have to spend for that particular NFT would double, because if the price of ETH had gone down and the amount of ETH stayed the same, well, then you get a 50% discount. Mm-hmm. But that's not what happens. The amount of ETH you had to spend also goes down. Instead of 10 ETH, now it's only 5 ETH, with the price going down as well. So you're getting like a 75% discount. If that happens inversely, where let's say the Todd is worth 2 ETH, and right now the price of ETH, let's say, I don't know, let's say it's like $1,000. It might be more, might be less, but let's just say it's 1,000, and the Todd is worth 2 ETH. Okay, let's look at some predictions that we have from, let's say, Kathy Wood, that she predicts a $20 trillion market cap for Ethereum by 2030. Even if she's way off, even if it's only $10 trillion, you know, that's, you know, for ETH, that would be like 80,000 per ETH. And if the amount of ETH that you have to spend doesn't change on the Todd, and it's 2 ETH, that's $160-something thousand for one Todd. And that's it. That's if the amount of ETH stays the same, because people don't look at it in prices of dollars. Like, oh, how much ETH is that? You know, that could be 10 ETH. That could be like several hundred thousands of dollars. So and the Todd is the first of anything is, saying in Pokemon, the older, the minter, the rarer, the better. And if Todd's number one is yeah. And I don't have a Todd, so I had sold that and other stuff for Omi, but so I'm not trying to pump my own bags here. It's just that's the first one, and that's the one that people are going to want.
In fact, you're like, hey, just keep it low for a while. I'm going to wait till my Omi goes 150x, and then I'm going to cash them out and buy Todd for cheaper than what I sold them at.
Yeah, they'll be whale games, and you probably play them yourself. I know I'm going to play them. When Omi goes up and people are racing for Todds that are like 5K or 10K, because those will be cheap at that point because they've already been 14K. There's, if once you have a 10-cent Omi, it doesn't matter what Todd is. You're just gonna Omi will probably move like Doge moves, like, oh, it's 7 cents today, 6 cents now, 10 cents tomorrow. Which for people that are going to get in at that point, it might not mean too much to them. But for us that have tens of millions or hundreds of millions of Omi, I'll buy a bunch of Todds when Omi's 6 cents, and then when Omi goes back down to 5 cents the next day, I'll sell all those Todds right back for more Omi, because the amount that you can buy is just so much when it gets to that point. My God.
Yeah, for what's funny is when Ecomi's price was pretty high at 1.4 cents, and a lot of people were like, oh, what do you think about VeVe and Ecomi? I was like, I love Omi and I love VeVe, but right now the collectibles are way undervalued. You can get a Todd McFarlane on the app, and it's the first Batman. Unfortunately, the Eduardo Rizzo is like sold out. You can buy the Todd McFarlane for 80 gems on the app. That is the most underpriced thing right now. Why would you pass that up? Just first Batman on the blockchain. It's huge. This is the first set released. At the time, it wasn't clear that was the first Batman on the blockchain. It was just the coolest one that was available, and it was 80 gems. And there was one other one. Was it the Joe Madureira? I forget who else.
Joey M or Becky Cloonan.
Yeah. Those that, like, there was one other one that was still available too in March of last year. And so it just made sense to buy that. Well, now Todd McFarlane's are expensive and Omi is cheap, right? So Omi is a lot cheaper than it was. In fact, it's 90% discounted right now from that high of just over 1.4 cents. And so it makes sense, like, for me, that's why I'm putting way more into Omi. Now, I can't help myself, and I still buy more collectibles, which brings me to my next question for you. For those that are brand new to the app, what would you share with them to help them as they get started with their digital collectibles? If they were thinking like an investor with their digital collectibles, I guess what words would you share with them?
If they're coming in just as an investor, not as someone that's a collector, I would say, okay, look at, it would be to look at YouTube and to see which fandoms have the most views. Like why I stacked a couple of those Ghost Spideys is because you have tens of millions of people watching that. I don't care how much Tokidokis are or how undervalued they are. I don't think you have tens of millions of people looking at some of their videos on YouTube. I haven't checked, but dare I say, I would say look at that, but look at first to market. That first of anything is, like I said, that first Batman, that whole first set. There's going to be maybe 1,500 people that can collect that, because out of 1750 top or 1750 Riso, which is also the first error. Riso is labeled as a first edition, and a lot of things were labeled as first editions, and they had corrected a lot of them, but they kept the Kempew Harley Quinn as first edition, and they kept the Riso as first edition, and it should not be. So you have the first error in with the first actual first appearance, and then they're kind of bookends as well. Those of you that don't know, the Black and White series goes from number 1 to 100. I don't know, not sure what number Bane is, but you have the bookends on the original. There's a little spider on that. Oh, you're going to go back there. You have the bookends of number 1 being the Riso and number 100 being the Todd. So it's got that kind of first and last thing there as well. So I'd say that first set, and then look around the world, the most popular superhero, and it's undoubtedly Spider-Man. When you had a sitting president like Barack Obama, when asked who his favorite superhero is, and then he says Spider-Man, There's no higher compliment that you could get is when you have sitting president say that. So
not just any sitting president, one of the most charismatic presidents. I mean, literally up there at the levels of JFK, right?
Yeah. Yeah, so, very good speaker.
Notable, even if you don't agree with Barack Obama's politics on things, you have to agree that he's one of the most charismatic and best leadership capabilities and ability to persuade of any president. So it's notable, particularly when he says that.
Yeah, and I don't know if people would know this, but you should be able to find everything on the blockchain on the Amutascan that you might not be able to right now, but at some point the API is going to be very, very public. And you could see, oh, hey, there's, 10,000 Spider-Man sold, traded hands today, but only, I don't know, like a couple hundred of these other ones sold. And you could be able to tell what's most popular. So that one's really a really good metric that we just don't have yet. Then the buying and selling listings as well are, once we have sold listings and we're able to see, okay, how much actually sold at this price versus how much are just being taken off the market. That's something I'm really curious about as well.
Yeah, I'm really curious to see the analytics too behind it. Thank you, Ecomi Skywalker, for the super chat. We very much appreciate it. Now, I got 2 questions in a row. What is your single favorite or most favorite thing about the Ecomi team itself?
I would say it's the perseverance and intestinal fortitude. Like I've met the team couple times and they just I get really stressed when I work too much and they just don't seem to. They just I don't know if both David and Dan have been business owners for a while, so they know what that entails. But even like Reese, they just don't seem phased by a bunch of this stuff, and then they have to be working so hard. So that's one of the things I look for when investing in a company is I look at the CEO of every single podcast and interview they do to see how they handle the pressure at different times, different years, what was going on at that time. And for David and Dan, they just, not much has changed as far as their personalities. Like I haven't seen an interview with them where they're just like, they just look like they're done. I haven't seen an interview when they look like they're like super tired and, meeting in person, or, it's, that's probably the favorite thing. And the fact that, that David was a collector, or still is, that's perfect. You have things like Pokemon that aren't really, they're not really doing right by collectors now, or they took away that first edition, many years ago. And now when they say, hey, we're printing a certain amount of these, and then suddenly they say, they're going to move on to the next set, and they do, but Roaring Skies or Crimson Invasion, we're going to print more of those. So people that thought that they only had a certain amount, and they just bought, and Pokemon just bought more printers as well. So the fact that VeVe is really disrupting collectibles by saying we're only going to make a certain amount and confirmed on blockchain, and the fact that you're going to be able to have these signatures authenticated on the blockchain. Right now, if you have a Pokemon card and you want to get it signed, okay, cool. Like if it's already graded, you have to break it out of the case and get it signed, and then get it regraded. But you'd have to wait like a year. Like right now, if I went and got something signed, like let's say to Arita, and I send it out to PSA, I can go out, court a girl for several weeks, have a kid. She could give birth by the time before PSA comes back with my card. And for this is taking a couple of minutes. It takes as long as it takes for somebody to say like, oh, I have it on you transfer this, I have it, I'm going to send it back. That's digitally signed. The amount of disruptiveness and innovation in this company is by far one of the favorite things. And that definitely comes from David, because, just as a collector. So what would you do if you had this? And they answered that question. They did it very, very well. I know there's a long response to your question, so I was all over the place there, but that was the answer.
Follow-up question on that. Shout out to VeVeversity. That's Eva. I cannot say her name right. It's Eva. but like my mind wants to go one of two ways with it, either Eva or Eva, the Spanish pronunciation, but straight up Eva. She was on the show just last week. I understand she's coming on your show. She created VeVeversity. She's a lot of fun. So yeah, I guess, is it Saturday coming up your video?
Oh, you want to say when she's going to be on the show?
Yeah.
She will be on Just Got Cricket, Poker NFT podcast with that is no, it is. Oh yes, it's going to be on Saturday. It's going to be on Saturday at 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time.
Perfect.
Yeah, so
no,
be on.
So Saturday. So tune in for that. If you haven't already subscribed to the Real Randy Chavez Show, subscribe to that and follow his Twitter, because that's when you'll see it coming up and you can click on it too. Next person says, hope you're okay, Crypto Rain. You're looking sick. It is totally hot in here. I have the door closed, so it bounces out some sound. So I'm actually going to go open that door and turn the fan on, because it's like hitting like 100 degrees in here. But while I go do that, I have a question so you can talk to the audience. If there was one thing you could change about Ecomi or VeVe, that you could wave a magic wand and it got better, what would that be?
Search bar. I want to be all right. So this is, and again, they've got so much on their plate right now that it is 100% okay that I'm waiting for this. But if I want to go to check the price of a comic and I don't have that comic, because you could do that if you have your comic. Like, let's say I go to the app and I say, okay, look at all of the comics I have. It's not loading right now, but I can do that. Like, I can go to Fantastic Four #1 Secret Rare. I can go to, Marvel Now .1 and I can go look at that price. But if I don't have the comic, like let's say it is Fantastic Four #5, which I don't have, but it's a really cool comic and I don't have it, I can't just go in the search bar and search for Fantastic Four #5. I have to scroll forever.
Yes.
And it's so inefficient. And it's so, if they could fix that, like, I would be super happy. And I get it. It's like they give us so much, but I feel like it's just for me, just to save time. And I feel like a lot of other people, that working search bar would be really good.
Yeah, because right now, sometimes when I'm looking, I do love the computer app, because I use that a ton for my buying, especially stuff that's been on the market for a while. I use the app on the computer. It's just so easy. But sometimes I'm away and I'm on my phone and I'm like, yeah, I want to pick up one of these, and I'll go to like open the comics and I'll be scrolling through, just melt my phone, and like the app will just shut down because it can't handle the memory capabilities on my phone. So it's like, oh gosh, dang. So yeah, if I could just search and go to it rather than scrolling, because there's a lot of different comics. Or, under collectibles, I usually go to brands and then I find the brand, then I click on it. So that's my shortcut I use. But under the comics, you're stuck looking through a whole bunch of comics, and then it totally fails. Yeah. Bill Gardner says, Randy with the bachelor pad on the computer there, all in one screen. Yes. Love the backdrop. It's awesome. Totally bachelor pad.
Yeah, it looks like the place just exploded. Yeah, it is. I will be moving in, hopefully, to a friend's place in the next couple of months, and I'll do that. I'll save a little bit of money until early next year, where I can either sell some Earth 2 crypto, or Omi goes up, and then I'll get a big boy apartment. I finally got an air conditioner this year that you can see up there. Didn't have one last year. That was awful. And then, yeah, that's it. I'll get a professional setup. I'll get a computer. I'll get I'll get whatever y'all need.
But you're smart. When everything's so low, why not squeeze the expenses down as little as possible? So that just gives you more investment funds, rather than like passing up this opportunity to get everything so cheap. These opportunities to get stuff this cheap don't come very often. Like, if everyone here could rewind time 18 months or prior and buy Ecomi when it was the crypto winter before, would they do it? Because if they didn't, at certain prices, it went anywhere from 200 to 800x, depending on where they bought it during the crypto winter, when it hit the peaks in March, right, at 1.4 cents.
Yeah. Oh God, everyone. And that's the thing. Like, so everything that we were talking about, buying and selling time, the arbitrage when Omi goes up. When you do Omi to NFT, you have a fee that's going to be burned, and you're going to have so much burn, and starting in before the end of the year and going into next year. It's very easy to see that if the price stayed low, which it might for a little bit, but you could burn tens of billions of OMI in 1 year from the circulating supply. And that, oh God, be advised, they haven't done marketing yet. So I would much rather them actually just do marketing just for VeVe and not for the token, so that this way, the tokens really burn, because that's permanent. When they burn, they don't come back.
Yeah.
So I would much rather that happen, but I understand people have been waiting for a long time, as have I.
It's amazing how much OMI is getting burned while the price is so cheap, right? Because they burn it based on a percentage of profitability or whatever, right? Like, truth is, I don't remember what the mechanisms are for the burn. Just the amounts that I've seen burned are huge. And so, and that's already without a lot of this other stuff in place. Who knew that we would end up so cheap as we are? I remember when it touched down, I think it was July when it touched down about these levels before, and I was just so excited, like a kid in a candy store. And I know a lot of my viewers picked up some OMI down at those levels, right? Then it ran up all the way to about 0.8 cents, and it's come all the way back down, which reminds me very much of like the crypto winter and like the Bitcoin price at the beginning of the crypto winter. It touched down at some lows, and Bitcoin went to 3.2K. It went up to about 14K in the middle of the crypto winter. And then it came all the way back down one more time to 3.8K. And then it went off. And it's funny how OMI has kind of done that same thing. After March hitting its highs, it came down over the next 3 or 4 months, came all the way down to 0.14 cents. I think 0.11 cents. And then went all the way up to 0.8, and then all the way back down, right back near those same lows. And should it hit lower? It might. I hope it does. I do have some cash on the sidelines. As it kind of just watching it day to day, I'm hoping it gets one more drop, which leads me into a question. Somebody asked a great question that's up a little bit.
Sure.
I want to cover that question. It's really good. Giovanni says, do you guys think we'll see lower prices, say if Bitcoin does go to 10K? Thoughts?
I don't, 10K Bitcoin sounds extraordinarily low. I don't know if that would happen, but if it does, yeah, you totally expect OMI to go. Bitcoin can't just drop 50% and OMI just stays exactly where it is. I would expect a bit of a pullback. Again, you've had a bunch of people that bought at 0.0010 or 11. And I don't blame them for selling when they made a 60% profit in a couple of weeks, going to 0.0016. So yeah, does it go to 3 zeros? Probably not, just because there's a bunch of people that I've been talking to that have really high bankrolls that have buy orders set for 0.0012, 115, 110. So if it a miracle chance it gets to 3 zeros, it'll be there for a New York minute and spike right back up. Because that's silly. Like $900, $1,000 for a million OMI that's so cheap.
And we know people that have massive buy orders in below that level. So even if it touches there, right? Those buy orders will, they're huge buy walls. So he makes a good point. And there's a chance Bitcoin touches down there if some things go wrong. With equities and other things in the general market conditions, there could be another sell-off, which would push Bitcoin possibly down as far as 10K, maybe could go even farther. And in that scenario, I think OMI does go down more. So he makes a good statement by, if Bitcoin goes to 10K, will OMI drop? Yes, probably. Not definitely, but probably. And that's the scenario where I see OMI coming back down again at a touchdown to where it was. Doubtful that it hits levels below that. I would love for that to be the case. I have a whole bunch of buy orders in, just nice. 15K, in fiat with stable coins in buy orders, just sitting there waiting to trigger, right? And not even down at those levels, not below 0.1 cents, because I think the probability that we get to below 0.1 cents is very low. Yeah. DG Vet just did a super chat. Do you remember him from the back hell event?
We had stationed ourselves right by the at a table right by the door where all the food was coming out. So as soon as the food would come out, I'll take that. It was great. We shared some peanut butter whiskey. Yeah, he's a cool guy.
Wasn't that one of the most amazing events? Like, for those that haven't followed what's going on with Bat Cows, they put on this event at New York Comic Con, and because of DC, they do have this special, I forget the name of it, the venue that's right there close to Times Square.
Wait, what for Comic-Con?
New York and NFT NYC that we were there for. And I guess it wasn't super close to Times Square, but the Bat Cow event we went to, what's it called? Spicescapes, yes. And they did a special Bat Cow event that if you had a Bat Cow, you got in for free. And that event was epic, wasn't it?
Yeah, and that's where that was a lot of fun. So it had both things. It had like the escape room Batman type thing, and then it had the open bar. And it could have just had one or the other and be really great, but it had both. The only thing about which I loved about the Batman thing is I halfway through, everyone's like, "Oh my God, Randy Chavez!" I was like, "Oh hey," and then it just kind of turned like superstar for a minute, and then I was like, "Okay, let's just all go get drinks," and then we would kind of walk through the rest without really like completing it. But yeah, that was really fun. That was really cool. We bought a bunch of those comics. We met a whole bunch of people. It was good and exciting.
Yeah, that was a lot of fun. I picked up like 25 of those comics, and then when I found out they still had some more because they had some upstairs, I bought another like 15 of them.
Nice.
So, and hopefully I haven't checked them to see how many made it through, because I had to then like pack them in my small suitcase that I had, and make sure probably the ones on the top and bottom might have gotten dinged a little bit. DG Vet says we were lit, too much fun. Bill Gardner has another buy order in. He brings up a good point about a lot of bank freezes have been reported in China. Their economy is going through a lot of what I saw in the real estate market. My background was investing in real estate in 2007, 2008 in Canada and the US, and a few other places were not good years. And one of the problems was there had been there were too many incentives to buy. It became too easy to buy. You literally just had to have a pulse and you could get a mortgage, and like pretend that you had a job and you could get a mortgage. And so lots of people with a pulse that pretended they had a job were getting mortgages, but they really couldn't afford to make those payments long term. They were just speculating on the price of the homes going up. And so there were a lot more homes built than there was actual demand for. And China is going through that exact same problem. A bunch of bureaucrats decided it would be nice where some projects would be built without making sure that there was demand there. And so they have like huge apartment areas where like the apartments aren't selling. Nobody's renting them either. Nobody wants to live there. And so, I mean, that takes a lot of money out of the economy that wasn't spent in efficient places. And so your economy then will pay a price for those kinds of big decisions. So there's a lot going wrong in China's economy, a lot, and it's really starting to be seen.
Yeah, me and my friend Lido one day, the guy I used to serve with, we went really hard one day studying like everything about like their construction companies, which are backed up a lot by government, saying like the government will give out the loans for them to buy the materials for do whatever to build all these houses. And a lot in China is like if you don't have a house, if you're a man, minimum you have to have one house in order to get a girl, because there's so many more men than there is women. And a lot of these guys, or a lot of these families, they'll scrounge together money for the sons to go get a house or houses so they can get a girl. And a lot of them they're just there, and they're not being rented out. They're just empty towns. And because a lot of the construction, like their economy's built on the new housing, because they know people are going to buy them. Because the more houses you have, the higher chance you have of wooing this woman. Oh, I have 3 houses. Wow. It's absolutely wild what's going on over there. And I can't prove this, but I 100% believe that the Chinese government is giving money to the people and for them to buy land in the US, where I've seen it in more specifically Queens and Maspeth in New York, where I was growing up. Like it was just a lot of white people where my grandma was at, and then everyone's Asian now, and it wasn't like a gentrification thing. It was just that they were coming in with cash, and the price of the house is so high. My conspiracy mind going really crazy there, but But
even if they're just their families putting together money so they can buy a house, not in China but in the US, think of the status symbol that is I didn't even think of 20 years ago. I remember the population problem in China, in that there was all these incentives to only have boys and only have one boy. I remember the stories 20 years ago. I hadn't thought about down the road what that would turn into, that all these boys that want to get married to a girl, you have a huge shortage of girls and the implications of that. And that's exactly what you're discussing. I hadn't put that together of, oh yeah, there's going to be this demographics problem where only a slim percentage of the guys even have a chance of marrying a girl. And so now they have to show status symbols, right? Maybe like land in the US is a status symbol. And so maybe that exact same thing is happening, that families, even if the government isn't giving it to them, they're pulling together. Maybe they'll just have a house in the VeVe-verse, and that will be a huge status symbol. And we'll see money funneling into the VeVe-verse so they can show them their digital house.
How many people do you know? And maybe there's a little bit for younger guys, but how many people? I know a couple of people that buy cars and have like apartments or houses they can't afford just because it looks good to other people. Women as like, how many times do you see guys go into a bar and drop like hundreds of dollars in hopes that it impresses a lady at the bar? Oh, he's got some money. I think 100% before the end of the decade, when let's say Apple or whoever comes out with wearable glasses, and you could enable that, let's say if you have glasses or whatever, that you could have your wallet viewable. The saying like, oh, he has this NFT, they have this NFT.
Yep.
100% people will do that. 100,000%.
Well, think about why really all these people are buying Bored Apes. At first, it was because you got access to the exclusive Discord and everything. But then it became popular enough that just having that symbol, right, having that NFT, and then you can then have the rights to put it on your Twitter and other social media. That's what that became about. It was a flex, right? And so when it becomes easy to display your VeVe flex, or as it gets more traction, right? Oh my gosh, you have Spider-Man secret rare number what, this, and this. Oh, you have, Walt Disney statue. Oh my gosh, can I date you? They won't happen so directly as that, but flexes do have social implications, right? Yeah. So I do think that they'll hit a level that they have a flex. My background is not in comics at all, and it's so funny because like I was talking about HROs, like that stuff, and I pronounced dark side wrong, and someone's like, I knew you're a poser because you don't even know how to say dark side right. And I'm like I never said that I have this huge background in comics and like the DC universe, and what I just know good value, right? My background is pattern recognition and investment, and I would be dumb to ignore first, like with DC and other things, especially first series. But my background isn't comics, and I thought I've been digging into like a little bit more what's happening on comics, and I was watching this channel, Comics and Crypto, and I saw the craziest thing that they had on a guest that was talking about how much some of these Nintendo, like factory sealed Nintendo games or just early video games sold for. So there was the first Mario Brothers game, factory sealed. I can't see what the grade was, but it sold for $2 million. Talking about flexes, right? I mean, that's why else is somebody paying $2 million for that, for a flex? Super Mario, this is like, I think Super Mario World sold for $1.56 million. You have Sonic the Hedgehog back on Genesis sold for $360,000. 007, which was an amazing, groundbreaking game. That was so much fun. I had come back from being out of the country, and my brothers had been playing that, so I tried playing with them, and they literally just schooled the heck out of me on that. I had a gun, and he was just slapping me, and he still beat me because I had been out of the country doing anything but playing video games for a couple of years. Mario Kart sold for $144,000. Halo sold for $108,000. What a revolutionary game Halo was. But think about the prices. I didn't even know there was a market for the video games.
Yeah, I remember that blowing up a while back.
Yeah, I wasn't aware. So, I've started to pay attention. What's cool, Comics and Crypto has this great link tree that takes you to so that you can check prices of real life comics versus the digital stuff, because I have a a feeling that like really Ecomi was the first to really nail it with these digital comics. And it's not a big thing yet. But I remember when, as I was processing, what do I think about this when they were first coming out and they were doing Marvel #1, which I ended up going ham on when the commons, I unfortunately didn't get the secret rare. But I remember, you know, thinking that they were now, all these people that got commons were super disappointed with them and they were dumping them on the market for $3 and $4. And I just kept buying some, right? I just kept sweeping the floor. I forgot to keep sweeping the floor and only ended up with like, I don't know, like 35 or 40 total ones. But, you know, it made sense to me. It's like digital comics right now aren't a thing. People aren't thinking about this. But later on, as their flexes, it's a possibility that some of these that don't have a lot of circulation versus the demand, like right now, there's not even a lot of circulation of some of these comics that might be worth 100,000 or 200,000. However, it's fair to say a lot of current comic book collectors are mostly in the US and maybe just a few other places that collect the physical versions. Mm-hmm. What happens if digital versions then become worldwide, that people all over the world, like something like VeVe, can bring it to? The demand will so vastly exceed the demand for the physical comics that the prices of some of these things that have 30,000 total mints or 50,000 total mints, like the Amazing Spider-Man #1, is it 50,000 or 70,000? It's a lot.
Yeah.
But the demand for that has potential to still make that price go really, really high, even though there's so much.
Yeah, a lot of times that, so I hate shipping to Europe, UK, Netherlands, because they have the, and people hate buying from me, whether it's Pokemon cards or whatever, because they have, especially UK, they have this tax, like ever since Brexit, they have to, like, whatever the price is, they have to pay the price, and then they have to pay like an additional 25% of the price as a tax. And it's like, oh my God. So would you rather get the comic where you have to worry about shipping, you have to worry about it being damaged, you have to worry that, or would you just rather buy it on the blockchain via an app and you don't have to pay that extra fee? You don't have to pay that extra, like I said, the most disruptive thing in collecting is VeVe. It's amazing.
In a marketplace that's accessible worldwide, right? So you put it on the market on the VeVe app, and anybody, and now they can use the computer for it too. Anybody anywhere in the world can buy that. So you don't have to worry about shipping or anything. And so later, imagine as you're able to display these things, right? So that's where I think the higher prices come in. Will there be, how many of the Spider-Mans? I could always look that up pretty fast.
I forget.
Yeah, but let's say like I was lucky enough the Kang drop. Remember, Kang, they only did 10,000 total on it.
Yeah, Kang's good.
I happened to get a secret rare on that. I got secret rare number 342 or something, some great low mint number. I was like, oh my gosh, the luck does hit you once in a while. And yeah, so there's only 10,000 total of those. And imagine like people want to make it a flex for their digital home, right? So if digital homes and the metaverse becomes big, and let's say that the VeVe-verse does really well, and they want to showcase it on where they have people come over and check things out, or showcase it on something that people, when they check out the profile, they can easily see their showcase so that they can make a digital flex with it. Yeah. That's when these things, even if there's 10,000 or 20,000 or 50,000 mints, can go to prices, say for like a Spider-Man #1 in the thousands of dollars, which is absurd considering, you know, you could have bought it just after drop day for $3 or $4 or $5 for a, you know, Spider-Man #1.
A lot of amazing times we're going to have in the next, I mean, forever. Like, you know, new brands sign on all the time. Like they'll have agreements multiple times a month.
Well, what's exciting is like, even if you're just starting now, right? So some people look and they're like, oh, I miss Todd McFarlane. It's too expensive. And for those that are new coming in, see, we're not in a position that we give financial advice because we're not like registered or licensed financial advisors. We do have opinions though. And my opinion is like, if I were new coming into VeVe, what I would do, I wouldn't chase like a Todd McFarlane unless I had hundreds of thousands to invest and throw into gems, right? Then I absolutely would. And I would buy every single one of the grails. But if I was in a modest place coming in, trying to maximize it, I would come in and get something like, I'm a big fan of the Darth Vader, the commons and uncommons.
Yeah.
Why? Darth Vader is huge intellectual property. It came out recently during this current sell-off, right? So it hasn't gone through any price escalations yet. When it does, it will then get out of reach of everybody new coming in. And maybe at that point, there will be something else that'll be underpriced for those new people to be able to get. And by then, Darth Vader will probably be somewhat out of reach for them, right? Even the ultra rare price wise isn't too bad in price yet because it hasn't gone through that first step up. Kind of like the Todd McFarlane Batman was available for 80 gems for forever until all of a sudden it wasn't. It was sold out on the app. And then later the marketplace came out and the price went. Like my friend was so happy because he bought it for 80 gems and then he sold it on eBay and transferred it to somebody for $500. And he was all excited. He was like, man, I just made a whole bunch on that. He super regrets that now. But like the marketplace came out, and I think during that pump, Todd McFarlane went up to like 1,200 or something. And then it came back down to 300 or 400 or 500 gems. And then the next run up, it went all the way to like 16,000 and then it's come down to 2,400. And so those step ups happen. I think of it as like 3 steps forward and sometimes 1 or 2 steps back, depending. So if you're trying to gain value, if you chase after things that have already gone up a couple times, like the Todd McFarlane, where can they go from here? Not as high of an ROI as something that has grail potential, like common Darth Vader. Like maybe the ultra rare is like the total grail, but Darth Vader is some of the best IP out there. It just hasn't gone through any step ups yet. So you're still in that phase where you can get it at a price that I think later when people come in, they'll be like, wait, what? You were able to buy a common Vader for like 110 gems or 130 gems or 150. That's crazy.
Yeah. I also see that if you take a look at how much they went up from, let's say, the Marvel 1 secret rare versus the Marvel 1 common, the commons went up like several like 200x, whereas the secret rare went up maybe 50x. So the better deal, the better ROI was actually with the commons. You know, let's say you get the commons for $3 and they went up to 600 at one point, versus the secret rares that were like, 1,500 or 2K that you could get them for at the beginning, and then they went up to maybe 50-ish or 60-ish. So the better ROI was actually the commons. So I have a couple of the secret rare of the first appearance of Kamala Khan, but I have like 40 of the commons. You know, the commons I think are the way, because they're a lot more liquid as well. It's a lot easier to spend, a couple dollars as opposed to a couple thousand. So,
yeah, and a lot of times you get higher ROI. Let's use the example of like the secret rare Marvel #1. When that first came on, and if you didn't get the secret rare, you could have bought it for as cheap as like $1,100. Yeah. Or you could have bought the common for $3. Now at the peak, I think the secret rare, what did that go up to? So it was 1,100. Maybe it went up to like, I don't know, 60,000 or something.
Yeah, maybe.
But the common, so that's about a 55x. The commons went from 300 or $3 to anywhere from $3 to $4, went all the way up to about 800 gems. So if you think about the ROI on that, that's like 200, 300x, depending on what you paid for it. Right. So the commons, just a higher ROI, plus you can get multiples of the commons, which allows it easier to take profits. Because the problem about having a grail, if you put all your money into like one item or like a secret rare versus a bunch of commons, is it's really hard to take profits because you either sell it or you hold it. You can't like half sell it. You can't fractionalize it. So you either get to hold it or you can sell it. And so with the commons, you could sell half. You're like, I think this is the top. I'm going to sell half, but I'm going to hold the other half in case it isn't. And then if you're right and it scales back, well, then you can buy a whole bunch more and increase the number that you have, or diversify that into something else that might be underpriced. Bill Gardner has had a whole bunch of good comments. He was asking, as we were talking about some of the video game sales, about graded VHS tapes. I haven't followed that. He says Ghostbusters going for 30K, Back to the Future for 30K. That's crazy. He made this point here that I want to bring up. I'm waiting for Miles Morales first edition and Amazing Fantasy 15. I am very much looking forward to Amazing Fantasy 15 as well, because that's the true first appearance of Spider-Man.
So there's a particular, I think it's on the Friday of Comic-Con. I have it, yeah. So Friday, July 22nd, they're having this thing with a bunch of executives and Dan Slott from Amazing Spider-Man Fantastic Four and other surprise guests to ring in the 60th year of Spider-Man with Amazing Fantasy number 1000. That's going to be Friday, July 22nd of Comic-Con. Comic-Con is generally where things like Marvel, Disney, where they go and they announce amazing products and futures. Wouldn't it be really awesome if they had released Amazing Fantasy 15 on that day that they're celebrating 60 years of Spider-Man? I don't know. Just, makes a little sense.
Yeah, it makes perfect sense. And they're sharing a booth with Marvel at the Comic-Con event, which will be huge for awareness, right? So you have a lot of Marvel characters, and they'll be like, what is this VeVe thing? Wait, the app, wait, what? And, they get shown augmented reality, and you can put, like, Spider-Man there next to you and, like, in augmented reality and take some pictures. How cool is that?
I am going to work so hard. Like, my goal each day will just be to help onboard as many users as possible to help go and just give them a great positive experience. And by that time, most everyone should have KYC. I'm hoping they have transfers on. If they go and they have transfers on by that time, I'll pick random people and I'll send them collectibles. Like as their first, like, hey, it's your first time onboarding. Here's a little something. Just give them that positive experience. Like it's like when Rey Mysterio goes in and gives like a fan his shirt or an extra mask that he has. Just made a fan for life. If all you have to do is sign up and I give you a collectible, that's going to pay super rewards down the line because they're just like, oh, hey, this is a cool community. This is nice. And even if not all of them do, a good amount of them are going to spend money. So.
Yeah, I'm really excited about the future of this. And I'm excited about where we are in time with a new asset class that I think is going to do exceptional in the coming years. And I'm usually right on these things. And so it's hard to say when, right? So that's the hard thing. I was an early investor in Axie Infinity. I was like, hey, this idea of blockchain gaming is going to be great. And I think this is going to make massive amounts of money, and I was right. I did 100x, but what I was wrong on was the timing. It took me longer than I thought, right? Well, actually, it didn't go up at all for a good 20 or so months. And then when it did, it went up even higher than I could have expected. So I sold out at 100x. If I had kept it a little bit longer, went about 1200x, maybe actually more. So about 4,100 that I put into it, I sold out at about 400,000 roughly. And I still have a few items I'm making money in. If I had held it just 3 months longer, it would have been about $6 to $10 million.
Oh,
yeah. So like, I really can't complain and nobody feels bad for me. What I was wrong on, I wasn't wrong on, hey, this asset class is going to do really good. It was land for Axie Infinity, right? So the land made total sense for me. I think this game is kind of basic. It's kind of boring, but I think there's going to be money in this direction. This is one of the first. This is going to do well. I was just wrong on the timing, for 18 months, actually. I bought right at the initial sale, right? And prices dropped for about 20 months. It's worth about a third what any of us who had bought at their drop paid for things. And then it went crazy. And so sometimes on these things, it's hard to tell what the timing is going to be, but I'm continuing to see the right things from Ecomi as a company, as well as what they're doing with the VeVe app, that I still think they're going to hold the lead in this space as all this money comes into this space. And that's why I wanted to dedicate the next 3 days specifically to Ecomi and VeVe, because, it's just something I don't want my viewers to miss out. I wish when I first started covering VeVe in March of last year, I had made even greater emphasis. I started covering the Todd McFarlane Batman and this new app called VeVe. And a lot of my users who are used to crypto content, they're like, when are you going to get back to the real stuff? Stop covering this shit, and that is like, this is the real stuff. And, clearly they didn't get it. And so I was like, oh, well, maybe they just don't want to hear it. So I didn't cover it quite as much. I was caught off guard by their reaction. How do they not get this? Right. And so I still covered it. I just didn't cover it as much as I would have wanted to cover it, because I was like a visceral reaction by about half the audience. And I was like, what? So I probably didn't preface it enough that, like, I'm an investor and I would invest in toilet paper if there was a reason that toilet paper had a strong chance to go 100 or 200x. I don't know, maybe it's golden toilet paper or something. There would have to be like a narrative of why that toilet paper would be worth something. But it made sense to me that first Batman's on the blockchain and this app was crushing it where all the competition was. And that, yeah, it's Batman. Do I know tons about Batman? No, I love the movies. I've hardly read any of the Batman comics. It's one of the few ones that I've read any of. I don't know what I'm talking about with comics in general, but I know that there's massive money here. And I understand the psychology of investment and why so much money will come this way. The harder thing to tell is exactly when. That I don't know. I'm just guessing at the timeline. That's the hardest thing to guess.
Same. Agreed.
Bill Gardner asked one of the best questions. So Rain, OMI or collectibles right now? OMI by far. Like I'm putting way more into OMI than I am in collectibles right now. Although I did, compared to what I have in OMI, it's nothing, but I bought like 20 Batman, or not Batman, 20 Darth Vader common and uncommons. I'll probably continue adding to that. So that's not even a lot, right? Their average price was probably about 130 gems a piece. So that's not even huge, but like that's because I'm having a hard time like putting into the app versus when I could buy more OMI. Yeah. And so because OMI is incredibly undervalued, and I think ROI, this is just my guess for myself as the choices that I'm making. Maybe I'm right on this, maybe I'm wrong. I think Randy's making the same decision that the ROI on OMI, our guesses for ourselves, is that OMI outperforms.
Yeah, pretty much everything on there. I mean, there might be one or two things that can go up higher than OMI because of certain utility or whatever, but for the most part, OMI. That's what I'm doing.
Yeah, DG Vet said he just had his dog is having surgery Friday, so he has KYC, sold half of his collectibles on VeVe because to pay for it all, but he'll build it back up. We're still early. You are. I do think one of the greatest ways to build value is I think that Darth Vader common and uncommon. I like the uncommon stance a little bit better. Do you have a preference on common or uncommon? Sometimes the common does even better, even though there's more mint. I like the uncommon stance better. So I'm split. I don't know which one will outperform. So I'm pretty much 50-50 on both.
I like the common for it just because, the common Spider-Man outperformed the uncommon and almost outperformed the rare at the highs. But yeah, commons for whatever reason, people just tend to like.
Yeah, I wish they had the better stance on the common because then it would have been easier for me to decide. I like the stance a little bit better on the uncommon, so I split it. But as far as gaining value, it's like certain things, certain IP will outperform other IP, right? So surprisingly, Spider-Man's outperformed Myrmicornos. I don't know, maybe the demographic that loves Myrmicornos, they start to have like 7-figure incomes, and then the Myrmicornos outperform in the long run, but it's doubtful. And sometimes you're guessing and you don't know, but it's pretty good guess to go with something with like a Darth Vader, or should they release a Boba Fett? That's two of the best IPs in the Star Wars universe that have done the best historically is Darth Vader and Boba Fett.
Yeah.
So that's why I'm going semi-big. I mean, real big would be like 100 Darth Vaders, but I'm putting more into OMI right now.
Yeah. Right.
DG Vet likes the common Vader. Yeah. One he's holding the lightsaber up, and the other one he's holding it down. Some believe commons are first on the blockchain. Not sure if this is true or if it'll matter, said Slava. Good point. Is it true? I think it depends, right?
I don't know if it'll matter. It'll matter to some people. But I don't think like for the masses, like I'm not sure. Like even let's say like Pokemon, the first edition base set that everybody knows and loves, that's not Maxwell. That's not the first time we see Charizard. We see Charizard like at least 2 other times. I think 3. There's the emboss one. There's a greenback. The blue. Yeah. So we see Charizard 3 other times. It just we happen to get the first edition as the one that people like because that's the one where Pokemon just got popular. So I think that maybe some people will care about certain mint numbers and some people will care about certain, what was really first on the blockchain. But for the most part, I think the majority of people won't care. They'll just be like, okay, well, get their first appearance. They're labeled that way. Doesn't really matter.
Yeah, and Slava makes a great point here that he said if 1 million new users join VeVe, common and uncommon vaders will be out of reach. 100% correct on that, right? All of us, especially the guys and even some women that grew up in our generations, like Vader is one of those cool figures. And then having a collectible of him, right? He's one we all know for whatever, he's got a certain cool factor that has hit it. Like my friend, I've told the story to my audience before, but he was a big toy collector, and Star Wars toys primarily were a lot of his collection because they appreciated the most, because people that had money wanted Star Wars collectibles, and Darth Vader and Boba Fett. Boba Fett was the highest appreciating character. Darth Vader second to that. But both those two always did exceptionally well if there was something cool about him. And so the first Vader on the blockchain, and just, if Boba Fett ever comes on the blockchain, like on VeVe's app, pay attention to that.
Very good.
Cool. Well, that's all my questions. Oh, well, I do have one other question for you.
Okay.
You've spoken to David and Daniel before from the Ecomi team. What were your thoughts about Ecomi after speaking with them, especially after your first time you spoke to them? Like, you were already interested in Ecomi, but then you spoke to them. Did it make you way, way more bullish on who the people are on this team?
I mean, after the first time, first time I talked to David, it was on my stream where I had, well, I guess like on Spaces. I don't know if that counts, but it was on my stream where I was, a little toasty. I was a little toasty that day. I was pretty drunk. I was on some Lucy, but the
okay, so that one won't count.
but I people comment on the interview, so I guess it went well. What surprised me about the first time I spoke to David is that how chill he was, and it's just like, okay, he is. Take us out of the Ecomi thing, transport us to like another part of the country where nobody knows us, nobody knows what this is, and we could just sit and have drinks and just talk about collecting all day. Like that reaffirmed my belief that he's just one of us. He's just a nerd that had a dream, and it worked out, and he's doing the absolute best that he can. And do you like the company VeVe? Do you like bet on the horse or bet on the jockey? At this point, I'm comfortable. I'm betting both. Even if they do get tired one day, and they say, "Hey, yeah, we're going to sell our stake," like collectibles survive. The OMI, it's going to be fine. And obviously, that's years, if not decades, down the way in the future. But the second time where I met them in California, and I got to spend a good amount of time with Dan, is how well they really complement each other. David's a lot like the dreamer, like the one that's thinking years down the line and is getting stuff ready for years down the line. And Dan's the one that kind of keeps everything a little grounded, like focus on the here and the now. And it works so well that they are together because it's two completely different personality sets. So meeting them together, that made me think like, oh, this is a good team. It's like that one episode of Hey Arnold where Mrs. Flora, she's like a greenhouse keeper, and she like hurts her back, so she hires Arnold and Gerald to go run the store. Arnold's really good at the creation side of making sure all the flowers are good, and Gerald's really good at the finance side, charging people, doing whatever, making prices. And I think that's the same thing that we have with David and Dan, and it flows. The energy flows so beautifully, and I'm more bullish after meeting them. Not like crazy amounts, but it's like, okay, this works. So yeah.
Yeah. So one of the reasons, like, I always look at the company, especially with tokens, because we don't have equity in the company, right? It's not like stock where you have a share in the company. I always worry a little bit that the team will like not continue to build a use case for the token. And with a lot of companies, as they get bigger and get success, and Ecomi is at that, where they're bigger in success. If they haven't already, they'll have massive buy offers coming their way, right? So companies saying, "Oh, you're so great. We don't want to build our own thing. We just want to buy yours." And so one of my biggest fears was like, well, what happened if somebody would come in and buy this? And what I like is exactly who David is and what a collector he is. And, you know, along the way, I remember his initial pitch, because I was a pre-sale investor in Ecomi, of what they were going to build. And that would possibly leave us high and dry, because say some big company came in, bought it out, and they're like, we don't care about this OMI token. It has no value to us. And they just kind of don't give it a use case and it becomes worthless. That could totally happen if somebody like David didn't continue, and David and being at the helm of what's going on with it. But he's such a collector himself. I think he understands the value of this community, and that he wouldn't allow something like that to burn us, right? Because that is a worry, because what is the value? We don't have a piece of equity of the company. What we're hoping is that the utility comes in, makes the token super valuable because of the cool utility. And, you know, I think of the founder's commitment to making that happen is really, really strong. And I don't think they would leave us high and dry by selling to some big entity coming in, paying them even billions of dollars.
Yeah, I mean, if you take a look at, you know, like the founders' wallets, and, you know, they're, you know, what let's say they get offered $5 billion or whatever. Okay, let's say they take, you know, like $2 billion each after. Let's say even $2.5 billion each. Let's pretend they don't have to pay taxes. Pretend they don't have to pay anyone else out. Pretend they own, you know, 100%. Okay, 2.5 billion is nice, you know, each, but if they just hold on for X amount of years as they build up what they want to build up anyway as a passion project, they'll have tens of billions of dollars because of how much OMI they have. So it would make some poetic sense that why settle for a, you know, low digit when you could have tens of them? You know, that's my idea.
Yeah, exactly. Because they own so much OMI themselves. So yeah, if they sold out for billions, if they just hold on to their OMI and continue to give it value, I mean, their OMI alone will be worth billions and billions of dollars. No. Plus, it would leave us high and dry. And I've never sensed weakness in their integrity levels, right? Because that would be kind of throwing us under the bus if they sold out to somebody without some kind of commitment from that new party to really run and continue to give value to the token. Scott Horn says, I don't think they can get rid of OMI. Chris Ashby had a great question. What do you think will have the biggest OMI price action? The daily OMI burns, the master collector points, or the VeVe verse?
I think short to midterm, it'll probably be OMI utility, whether it be staking or the OMI burns. Like, again, when you have OMI to NFT and you have the fees that are just burning OMI, like you don't have to just wait for days on the drops. That constantly burns 24/7. VeVeverse, you know, when they sell land, you know, at some point, let's say next year, that's going to be a big pump. But I think that's really only a big spike for OMI usage, OMI burning. But I don't think that'll be, that won't be consistent. I mean, they could go and release land every now and then. They update it. They you know, have, you know, DLC pretty much. Then sure, but for the most part, it'll just be OMI utility, OMI NFT. That's going to be.
I'm really, I'm looking forward to learn more what they're planning to do with the VeVeverse and how it will play out. Like, I'm picturing like a Grand Theft Auto type universe, right? Which would be cool, or metaverse, but who knows what it actually looks like. And so I'm looking forward to hearing more details, because for now it's too hard. I could imagine when that comes out, and say if they, you know, you have to have master's collector points, certain amount to buy in the earlier rounds of it, that, oh my gosh. And so that will put a lot of pressure on the OMI token, because people will buy lots of that in order to stake it and be earning more master collector points. That'll put a lot of price action on the collectibles as well. So like, say the rares and the ultra rares of these comics, that like maybe the comic won't do well, but hey, it's 2 master collector points or 3 master collector points a day. People go and pick a bunch of those up. And so that, I think the OMI token, as well as the collectibles, if that land ends up being desirable, my guess is it will be, but without seeing the details of what the VeVeverse is, that'll be worth a lot. And how, I guess it has to do with how much proximity matters. Like in real life, they say the first 3 rules of real estate are location, location, and location. Well, because in real life, you know, you have this thing called drive time. You have this, you know, location is so valuable. if it is like a Grand Theft Auto type world, then location will be valuable for that too. You want to be closer to the cool stuff. But we'll see how it is and how it rolls out, because in the real life, in order to get anywhere, you can't teleport. You have to actually travel there. So location is important. In the metaverse, you can travel, right? So
yes,
you can teleport or other things. So how valuable location is will make a difference in how that all goes and what kind of ties to the master collector points there are. Oh, okay. You have to have 20,000 master collector points to participate day one. Oh my gosh, people will go crazy staking OMI and other things. So cool. Any parting thoughts before we wrap up?
I would say that if you have I don't want to quote Captain America. We're saying if everyone in the world is telling you to move, I think that scientists, when looking for life, they say follow the water. And when you have people that are looking to invest, say follow the money. Where is a lot of money going? A lot of money, like I'm saying, like tens and probably hundreds of millions are going to go into the Ecomi space over the next just year. That's going to be, not even like years down the road, like just this year, end of this year, early next year, and then you're going to have the big boys come in. This is, if you, let's say CPF, which is Singapore's, like kind of their retirement fund over there, where they buy the normal, ETFs, they buy stocks and bonds, but they also buy now NFTs ever since Singapore Supreme Court declared them an asset. If I'm somebody that's giving them money, I would say like for my retirement, and they come to me and say, yeah, we're going to buy some of these NFTs. It's of a pixelated ape called Bored Apes. You don't know what it is. And I'll be like, I don't know if I know about, like, that seems not good. Or they come to me saying, hey, there's a thing called the blockchain, and Disney has their first Mickey Mouse on the blockchain. It's a digital collectible. That's a lot easier sell to tell those people we're going to buy the first, Mickey Mouse collectible in digital space. I feel like, and Singapore is a relatively smaller country. I think that's just the first. There's going to be dozens and then hundreds of other countries that are going to be doing the exact same thing. There's going to be multiple companies like that in the US. Like some already are. Look to when you have OMI to NFT, and you have people like me, Henry Pagliuca, Dr. Prop, like just people that around my level, above my level, and below it. And finally, you have a bunch of OMI, and now you could spend it right then and there. People are not going to be able to help themselves. A lot of OMI will get burned. A lot of OMI will get spent. I think that we'll definitely be below 300 billion in the circulating supply, in like a year's time, give or take. But I think 250 billion in the circulating supply within a couple of years is definitely doable. And at that point, the market cap becomes a lot easier. The price becomes a lot easier to go up because you don't have to go that high to hit that market cap, or you have to go higher to hit that market cap. So I'm all in, and that's it.
100% agree. I wanted to share your Twitter real quick. It's right here at Real Randy Chavez. So if you haven't followed him on Twitter, go to at Real Randy Chavez right there, and you can get all his links to his YouTube channel and everything.
Wait, so that's what my page looks like from an outsider's?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
You never see it from this side, right?
Yeah, so I've never seen that, because on the top right, it shows my screaming video. I was have you seen it?
No.
And so there's this anime called My Hero Academia, and it's basically like one of the main heroes of it is a guy named All Might, and he's basically like Japanese Superman. Like, he can run super fast, punch really hard, and he has this move called the United States of Smash. And because he has, like, Dakota Smash, New York Smash, and then he has this one big move, and I don't know why, but I was like in the gym parking lot, I was having a hard time getting myself pumped up. So I was like, okay, let me do like a United States, and I like record myself, and I was like, so I scream it like top of my lungs, and I don't know why. Like it has like 3,000 views on Twitter. I don't. It's like I didn't mean to do that. But yeah, it's good times.
I'll have to check it out. Thanks so much for joining us. Those that are here, like you're here is such a good time. What's funny is when things are going great, like, and a lot of new people are coming in, they always think, oh my gosh, I wish I could have come in when prices were low. And I wish I could have come in back here, and I get it. Oh my gosh, I would have bought so cheap, but would they have? No, they would not have. And there's a reason they didn't come in then. In fact, everyone comes in during some kind of pump. That's just how psychology works. Now, every one of you that's still here, you're the smart ones because you stuck around when prices got cheap and you haven't gone anywhere. So you're the ones when prices go up and everything, and all these new people will be like, oh my gosh, you're so lucky. Luck had no effing thing to do with it. It was patience, tenacity, and persistence. And you weren't lucky, you're smart, because what? You came in after a pump like they did, but you were just smart enough to stick around and to stay here when most of these people are leaving and things are dirt cheap. And later when the prices go up, you'll be the ones to benefit from it. Thank you everyone for joining us. I got this rap. This is our Rainmaker song. I wrote the words. I had a great rapper from the UK named Charlie actually sing it because you don't want to hear my singing voice. Randy's heard it. It's not good. I did find
I like it. I think it's good.
Well, yeah, it was good when I could do dancing with it, right? What did I'm too sexy for my shirt. I did.
Yes.
Then everyone's like, I get it. Yeah, Rain's funny. But the first song, everyone's like, oh my gosh, give that man some singing lesson. I'm like, hey, I warned you and you guys told me, and I didn't even have any alcohol in me, and you're telling me to sing? Yeah. But I guess I'm Too Sexy is my new, yeah.
That was a great time. That was such a good night.
Good time. Yeah, it was a good time.
Came into the space chasing all of the gains, chasing the pumps and all of the hype trains. But like in life, shit right before you could. Was told to buy when it was pouring like a rainmaker should. I buy when it's down, don't chase the boats that I miss. Cause I always make the time in mind. I take the one out cause I'm patient like that, and I'll wait for the right time. I sell when it's high, I buy when it's low. They call me rich, they call me smart. I'm just a rainmaker running the show. Calculated investments, I don't leave with my heart. The principles are simple, they're leaving a mark. Buy when it's boring, just gotta be smart. I sell when it's hype, like all the channels they pump it. That's when I was selling, got parabolic and dump it. They call me rich, they call me smart. I'm a rainmaker, making my own start. I'm with the future, learning the past. Makes the time fly by, years going so fast. The game plan is mine, I'll own it now. When I reach the top, haters asking me how. Cause I'm a rainmaker, investments I love, and I follow what I learn, not relying on luck. Time is never better, the time like the present. This next 5 years is a gift and it's feeling like heaven. I'm committed to learn, to study and to know that nothing comes easy, but with knowledge the game show. Sticking out this wrong, cause soon will come a bear market. Learning and growing, and when it's slow will be the target. Naysayers come out, Bitcoin is dead. The massive decreases can get to your head. Sticking around, the time is better. Strong like that, I'll let the others be fretters. 2 years time, the ball will bring back the gains. That makes it worth the effort, cause here comes the rain. So let's go rainmakers, let's make it all happen. Let go of the hate, let the haters be crapping. I'm here for 5 years, let's do this together. The time is right, the time could be better. They call me rich, they call me smart. I'm a rainmaker, making my own start. I'm with the future, learning the past. Makes the time fly by, years going so fast. The game plan is mine, I'll own it now. When I reach the top, haters asking me how. Cause I'm a rainmaker, investments I love, and I follow what I learn, not relying on luck. Haters be hating, the time is slowed down. Addressing what they say when I'm wearing my crown. They're chasing green candles like someone who was new. I got a vision that was bigger, helping me to push through. I'm still human and sometimes it is rough, and that's what makes me special, simply I stay tough. Cause I'm a rainmaker, investments I love, and I follow what I learn, not relying on luck.